Tonight, a major legal and economic development in the United States. The Supreme Court has invalidated most of former President Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs, a decision that could reshape U.S. trade policy and redefine presidential authority. In a 6-3 ruling, the court said the president overstepped his legal powers when imposing broad global tariffs under emergency authority. So what exactly happened? Why did the court strike them down? And what does this mean for businesses, consumers, and global markets? Let's break it all down. What were these tariffs? During his presidency, Donald Trump made tariffs a central part of his economic strategy. He argued that tariffs would protect American industries, reduce trade deficits, pressure foreign governments, strengthen U.S. manufacturing. Many of these tariffs were imposed under a federal law called the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA. IEEPA allows a president to regulate economic transactions during a national emergency involving foreign threats. Trump used this authority to justify broad tariffs on imports from multiple countries, arguing they were necessary for national security and economic protection. Over time, these tariffs affected steel, aluminum, consumer goods, electronics, industrial materials. Supporters said they strengthened American leverage. Critics argued they increased costs for U.S. businesses and consumers. Legal challenges soon followed. The Supreme Court decision. In a landmark ruling, the Supreme Court of the United States ruled 6-3 that most of these tariffs were unlawful. The court determined that EPA does not grant the president unlimited authority to impose broad, indefinite tariffs. The majority opinion emphasized that the Constitution gives Congress the power to regulate trade. Emergency powers must be interpreted narrowly. Broad global tariffs require clear congressional authorization. The justices concluded that while IEEPA allows targeted economic restrictions during emergencies, it does not authorize sweeping trade policy changes. This ruling effectively invalidates the blanket tariffs imposed under that emergency authority. However, and this is important, not all tariffs were struck down. Tariffs imposed under other trade laws remain intact. Why this ruling matters. This decision is significant for several reasons. First, it reasserts limits on executive power. The court made clear that emergency authority cannot replace congressional approval when it comes to major economic policy. Second, it could have massive financial implications. Businesses paid billions of dollars in tariffs over the years. Now companies may seek refunds. Legal experts estimate that tens of billions of dollars could potentially be involved. However, refund decisions will likely be handled in lower federal courts. Third, this ruling could reshape how future presidents use emergency economic powers. It sets a precedent. Presidents may now face stricter judicial scrutiny when invoking emergency authority for broad policy actions. Economic impact. So what does this mean for everyday Americans? Tariffs often raise import costs. When import costs rise, businesses pay more, supply chains adjust. Consumer prices may increase with these tariffs invalidated. Some import costs could decrease, however, changes won't happen overnight. Trade agreements, pricing contracts, and supply chains take time to adjust. Markets reacted cautiously to the ruling. Investors are watching for clarity on refund procedures, new trade policies, congressional response. The long-term economic impact depends on what happens next. Trump's response. Following the ruling, Donald Trump criticized the decision and signaled plans to pursue alternative trade measures. Reports indicate he may rely on provisions within the Trade Act of 1974 to impose temporary tariffs under different legal authority. That approach could allow short-term tariffs, but long-term implementation would require congressional involvement. The political debate over tariffs is far from over. Supporters argue tariffs protect American jobs. Opponents say they increase costs and strain international relationships. This ruling intensifies that debate. Political and global reaction. Lawmakers from both parties responded swiftly. Some praised the court for defending constitutional balance. Others expressed concern that the ruling weakens U.S. trade leverage. Internationally, trading partners are closely monitoring the situation. Countries affected by past tariffs may reassess trade negotiations. Global markets prefer stability and predictability, and this ruling introduces a new phase of legal clarity but policy uncertainty. Conclusion. The Supreme Court's decision marks a defining moment in the intersection of trade policy and presidential authority. It reinforces Congress's constitutional role in regulating international commerce. It opens the door to potential financial consequences, and it reshapes the legal landscape for future administrations. The key question now, will Congress step in to clarify trade authority, or will new executive strategies emerge? One thing is certain, U.S. trade policy just entered a new chapter. If you found this breakdown helpful, subscribe for more in-depth political and economic analysis. Thank you for watching.